EVOTINCTION is a dark sci-fi stealth hacking game by Spikewave Games, published by Astrolabe. The devs and publisher reached out to me half a year ago to preview the game's demo on Steam, and they contacted me again recently to ask if I wanted to review it. EVOTINCTION has a masterful wield of tension, unease, mystery, and dread. Its gameplay is atmospheric, oscillating between relaxing and tense. The way it layers new mechanics that combine with each other in powerful ways the more of your skills you unlock was very fun as a stealth fan. This game services both players who like to take down their enemies as long as you can manage your resources, and those who like to slip by. It also encourages replaying levels, mastering them for better clear times and SSS ranks. It's not a very long game, so if you want to play something whose first playthrough will last a long time, you may not love EVOTINCTION. If what you like is playing levels over and over or enjoying optional challenges until you get really good at something though, this game will give you that. Evolution and extinction are branched possibilities. Sometimes they intertwine, changing something to the point of being so unrecognizable it philosophically kills its past iteration. Other times, for one being to evolve, it has to extinguish another. The latter is most of what we're dealing with in this game, and in that sense the title suits it. This game's name is weird, and people like to point that out, but I don't mind it. A game with a strange name is more noticeable than something generic. Either that, or I'm infected with the game's apocalyptic red virus, and the Moore system is already influencing my brain activity. The game's technical state is alright, but I do want to mention things I noticed that I think players should be aware of, so no one is surprised. These are known issues and will likely be fixed soon, if they're not already by the time this video is out, since the dev team at Spikewave are doing their best to improve the game every day, but it's still the responsible thing to do to talk about them. The game does exhibit occasional but noticeable stutter. For me, if stutter got worse than usual, closing the game and continuing after a restart usually cleared it up. If you're really worried about it, it seems to be smoother on PS5, so if you have a choice, you're impatient, and you're wondering which version you should play, you may be comfier on console. Spikewave recommend we play it with a controller for the best experience anyway, even on PC, which I did. The music that's meant to play during certain stealth encounters doesn't always, but restarting from checkpoint typically fixes that. There are some spelling mistakes in a few places. Those are the noticeable rough points I remembered, and players will appreciate when these things are improved, but I see the flaws present here as a mark of how this game was made with passion and heart for a genre the team loved, even if it's imperfect. I think that characterizes all of EVOTINCTION. You can feel the soul of a game that loves the stealth genre. To highlight that, I want to mention a few nice features that make me think Spikewave clearly care about the player's comfort whenever possible. Pausable cinematics. You can pause cutscenes instead of just skipping them. This is nice if you need to stand up and do something during a cutscene, or just to get back to gameplay quickly if you're replaying the game. Especially in a game with an emphasis on repeating levels and trying for faster clears, being able to pause and skip any cutscene is friendly to players. Line-by-line dialogue advance. In cutscenes with a lot of back and forth dialogue, you can tap the confirm button to advance to the next spoken line if you have subtitles on and read quickly. The voice acting is pretty good though, definitely hear it out and see how you feel about it. 3 save slots, which is really nice. One of the most dreadful feelings I have when playing a new game is realizing it only has 1 save slot, making it impossible to have several different playthroughs going at once without having to sacrifice your original save. EVOTINCTION doesn't need that sacrifice from you. Chief among the UI settings is the ability to disable all the HUD entirely. For people who like to take screenshots or make videos, it's always very helpful, especially for people who like to make stealth videos. Hi, I'm People. Lore notes in stealth, horror, or other game genres that benefit from long, uninterrupted play are an efficient way to deliver story. In part, that's because they're opt-in narrative, so it's your choice to care about them or not. Audio logs can be good for the same reason, but you know what so many games get wrong with them? Locking you in a menu while you listen to an audio log and stopping playback if you exit. You know what EVOTINCTION gets right? Letting you listen to whatever audio logs you picked up while you're running around, grabbing resources, sneaking. Along with the skippable cinematics, narrative in notes and audios means you choose how much of the story to engage with yourself, and if you don't care, you don't have to sit through it. If you do, you can enjoy the mysteries unfolding around you without always having to stop moving. I found this made enjoying the story a lot easier and felt respectful of my time. If you did want to pay close attention to a specific one, you can always open your database and look at the transcript on every log. Some of them I would read quickly and then close, others I would listen to and follow along with the text, depending on what I felt Thomas Liu might do. Finally, EVOTINCTION has New Game Plus. It seems to let you unlock additional lore as well as play through all the encounters with your powerful first playthrough progression, of course. I haven't delved too far into it yet, just finding a few extra audio logs that didn't exist before, but I'm curious how things feel different on it and how much changes. I know there are moments in the game where you're asked to make a decision between two choices. New Game Plus therefore also offers the chance to make the other choice and see how dialogue and situations change. That's something I'm gonna try after finishing this video. EVOTINCTION is a game made by people who clearly love Metal Gear. You can just feel the reverence the game has for MGS and even a bit of a tribute to immersive sims, with its VR missions, the music feeling like a darker sci-fi lean on MGS stealth tracks, the cutscenes reminding me of Kojima's recent cinematic direction. Even its launch trailer has so much MGS energy. The very first door code is 0451. It also holds love for general dark sci-fi and cyberpunk concepts. A good old-fashioned story about a dangerous AI is something I'm always ready to like. The player character, Dr. Liu, really speaks like an academic or scientist, which I appreciated. Many audio logs and general conversations both describe hacking, computer systems, networks, and theories around AI in ways that go beyond what you may hear in Hollywood scriptwriting. The terminology used doesn't talk down to the player, it assumes some awareness of IT or hacking concepts, and it doesn't feel out of place to hear characters speaking this way. I also found Thomas Liu's voice actor engaging enough to listen to. He constantly rides a line between being unsettled and determined. He's focused, intentional, but there are moments the situation gets too much to him, and the fear lying underneath comes out. The way he was speaking his next words always drew me in. The real thing this adherence to fairly realistic IT and hacking dialogue achieves is, it makes conversations and audio logs feel immersive and believable. It makes sense, right? These people wouldn't be dumbing things down for each other in their situation just for our benefit. After all, no one from normal society is meant to be listening to their conversations anyway, so there's no need to filter themselves or hold back from speaking on topics with exactitude. The major actors of the storyline are stressed out people of high intellect. Computer scientists, engineers, trying to stay calm in an apocalyptic humanity-ending scenario. I found myself respecting the way they talk in both cutscenes and audio logs. These audio logs are usually intriguing. There's a strong sense of mystery to the whole game that I enjoyed. Every piece of the puzzle you learn about the AI you fight against makes you more nervous the further into the game you reach. AI is an increasingly hot topic in today's public consciousness. Unease around AI and the noticeable harm it can do is more prevalent than ever nowadays, from something as simple as misinformation and junk data to something overt like immense water and energy consumption. It feels like a good time to remind us that AI can be an antagonist, despite our best intentions. If you prefer a more down-to-earth concept, then consider that just because we created something, it doesn't mean we're incapable of damaging ourselves with it if we're reckless. Care should always be taken. The OST features chill tracks with cyberpunk vibes that ride the line between relaxing and focusing. They all sound appropriate and immersively atmospheric. I'm totally okay with music just providing background texture when it comes to stealth games like these, where you want your focus unhindered so you can concentrate on what's in front of you. Some tracks lean harder into tension and fear, and they were used well to make me hold my breath in the game's more tense moments. EVOTINCTION's best quality is its gameplay and level design. But in terms of story, what impacted me the most is that it excels at creating a sustained sense of unease and dread. For a very long time, the game flirts constantly and effectively with horror, breadcrumbing little lore hints about what might happen 30 minutes from now. You may read someone's diary entry about how they'll implant some tech into their nervous system, after you already know the more AI can hack those implants. Later on, you find someone that looks just like you shambling down a hallway, only to find moments later that was just visual information, not real. Or is it? You trade one fear for another, going from the inability to trust other people's bodies to the inability to trust your own senses and mind. Even worse. EVOTINCTION uses this growing distrust of the technology around you and inside you very well. It's a powerful weapon to save people, to fight back against the red virus and the more networks increasing resistance to being cleansed, but what is it doing to you while you pursue this cause? What kind of access to your mind are you giving the network around you without even knowing it? How can you tell? How can you be sure? It's not comforting that many environments evoke the sterile Resident Evil 2 remake style umbrella facilities. Much of the time, the game doesn't even play music, leaving you with your thoughts and the sounds of the environments around you. It gives time to reflect on what you've seen so far, decompress, and sometimes let you unsettle yourself, the game deploying your own thought process against you as the tension grows. There are times it almost dips into real horror with the sheer dread it's capable of creating, and I commend the game for having punchlines and payoffs without relying on any true jump scares. Why this is so good here is that tension rarely ever goes away completely, it only ever dims, but it's always there. The dread is always maintained, before building back up and leaving you wondering when or if something truly horrific will be revealed. The bleak futuristic feeling really helps this game stay engaging. Incomprehensible AIs, devastating viruses, our technology being crippled while we're more dependent on it than ever. Some of these are real fears, and some of them are futuristic extrapolations of things we already fear today, so the dread the game generates is often rooted in something relatable. As futuristic as some of the subject matter is, it always brings things back to practical ways of engaging with it and understanding it. Some of these things even affect gameplay. An example is network logs. The more you hack, the more you leave traces of activity in that area. One resource you can find comes from certain computers. Some of them let you delete network logs, which gives you back extra hacking time in that level. It feels smart, and the gameplay effect of the story makes sense if you put 2 and 2 together. Your hacking resource is measured in time. Every hack consumes a number of seconds you can see before you deploy it. In smaller areas you'll have 10 or 20 seconds to burn on hacking maximum. Bigger levels may give you a full minute or more. Hacking too much eventually locks you out of the mechanic, as the red virus blocks your access to the network if it's allowed to trace you for too long. EVOTINCTION does this very often, gameplay having presence in narrative, and in reverse, story elements defining parts of gameplay. You learn to think and behave as Dr. Liu would in order to remain effective. Hacking intelligently so you have trace time remaining for dangerous moments is a skill you grow. Test your limits, it's worth knowing how far you can push it. There's also a timing skill component to hacking when you unlock exploits. During a hack you can tap R1 again to land your cursor inside a green vulnerability. Doing that makes the hack finish instantly. Getting it wrong can slow you down, and AIs distracted by something like a noise have easier exploits to time. If you have the chance and timing to hit exploits consistently, you have more time to hack with. It's a risk you choose to take or not, and to get good clear times in ranks on harder levels, it's useful. On the note of levels, they don't just get harder, they change in visual presentation and feel. This environment contains more types of spaces than I first thought it would for an indie game, helping the feeling of being small and far away from humanity. The facility the game takes place in, here, Heuristic Emergency Response Environment, is a top secret location cut off from the rest of the world. Those who come to work there more accurately go to live there, permanently. Once they reach here, they can't return to the normal world. It's a place where humanity's 2,000 brightest minds work at the highest level possible, developing technology to lead to a better world, a better life. If you've experienced a sci-fi story before, you know it's never this simple. Here, being isolated and needing to support long-term living for so many means you actually get to see and explore those relevant facilities as you play. Venturing through its deserted spaces overrun by killer AIs, you see a medical center, shopping mall, restaurants, entertainment spaces. It feels like its own walled city, away from the rest of humanity. At times it reminded me a bit of the sprawl in Dead Space 2, and the same unnerving feeling of your whole world being somewhere you're trapped. A driving force behind why you're doing what you're doing is not only to fight back against the AI, but to discover what's really going on. As you play the game, you experience strange glitches due to the technology grafted directly into your nervous system. If you already have that unsettled feeling in your bones from that sentence, hold on to it. There will be times you're not sure if you can trust the voices around you, or even your own mind. I found the mysteries engaging with minimal flash and flare, letting the player ask themselves tons of questions as new facets are exposed. The final reveals behind everything were something I half expected, feeling both rewarded for paying attention and still a little surprised at 1 or 2 twists. It was a fun story, and I enjoyed it. I think it's worth experiencing if you want to be immersed in a world where programmers speak realistically on the nuances and horrors of their creations. That's something that all the more unnerved me and made me paranoid as I uncovered what happened in this facility. The grounded tone with which the consequences of the situation are discussed made it all feel, at least theoretically, possible someday. A dark thought. After a certain point in the game, the story goes in a direction I will respect the narrative by not mentioning here, since it starts to reveal many truths about the situation quite quickly at this point, and I liked being surprised and confused. With all that said, gameplay is the part of EVOTINCTION that I'm continuing to enjoy, even after finishing it, so let's talk about how this game plays. I overviewed EVOTINCTION gameplay in my preview video of the game a little while ago, so you may want to watch that if you haven't. EVOTINCTION is a stealth game, with some resource management that might make you think of survival horror at times. Whenever you choose ways to get past the robotic autonomous enemies you face, how you spend your resources is the choice you'll be making all the time. More difficult areas stress resource management skill more. Exploring quickly and thoroughly and remembering the locations of ammo helps with bypassing or eliminating enemies. You can play quickly and aggressively if you manage your tools well, and there are reasons to be less disruptive as well if you like playing that way. One of the easiest examples is you can use your E-Blaster, a close-range EMP, to instantly do a takedown on any enemy, but doing so will consume battery and potentially fry the upgrade materials they might drop. Doing a slow, risky barcode takedown often leaves their data intact, but it's dangerous. You're standing still in close range, and if they happen to move, you might not even manage to get the scan off. That's why the turn away hack is so powerful and never stops being useful. It can be such a nice instant cast ability to clean up a genie that you want to approach safely. They usually won't move while they're under the effects of it, and they'll be facing away from you, which is exactly what you want for a takedown or sneak by. I know some players were wondering if orbs were the only enemies in the game, but these spherical genie drones are not the only enemies you fight, no. The game's enemy variety feels pretty good by the end, for a stealth game where you're not going to be doing much combat. They interact with each other's strengths and weaknesses well. Enemies continue challenging me with different compositions and placements right to the final mission. Later enemies can only be taken down with the expenditure of a resource because they don't have barcodes, so getting past foes for free is not something you will always be able to rely on. At a certain point, I did become powerful enough that I could aggressively use items to speed clear areas quite fast, which is a state of play I always enjoy reaching in games, but it was nice that EVOTINCTION made me work for it. Mechanically, the game offers a good amount of situations to play through, while not overstaying its welcome. Just as I started to get tired of it, the final encounter rolled around and I was looking at the credits, around 12 hours after starting my save. If a player wants more EVOTINCTION after finishing, they can run New Game Plus and make different choices, challenge the VR missions called simulations, and replay levels for a faster clear time, or just for fun. I think these core stealth levels are also quite good. They work on 2 layers, which I think is worth praising. One type of challenge is getting through them when you don't know their layouts and are exploring them for the first time, lost and uncertain, with their many possible routes. The second type of challenge is when you're replaying them for fast times, testing how well you really know the space and the enemies in it. The fact that they work in both contexts speaks highly of the level design, since it would have been a trap to create levels that break apart when placed under the stress test of being played under different conditions. EVOTINCTIONs are good when you don't know them, and from the ones I played multiple times, they're good even when you do. The lead level designer, as well as everyone who iterated on these levels, should be proud. I think they did a great job making spaces I'm interested in playing and understanding. On the note of simulations, these are short challenges, mini-trials that test a discrete gameplay concept. There will be several in a row that center around that mechanic, like using Turnaway or the E-Blaster, which will then be followed by a capstone simulation combining the previous concepts to test you on all of them in one level. As you unlock new tools and weapons, you unlock new simulations as well that test your mastery of them. These are fun, and as I mentioned, serve multiple purposes. They're almost a bit of a tutorial that helps nudge players into useful ways to play, but in addition to being made to try out mechanics you may be ignoring, simulations are replayable, masterable missions you can enjoy getting better and faster at. Why might you want to do that if not for the sheer fun of it? Well, simulations also reward upgrade materials you can use in the real world, which is something I want to shout out for how cool it is and how much sense it makes. Most of the way you upgrade yourself in EVOTINCTION is via developing new programs and attack vectors using data gathered from the AI you're fighting. In other words, upgrade materials in the game are not physical resources, they are digital information, like training data. So getting a bunch of useful upgrades from playing VR missions that you can use to get stronger in the real world fits the mechanics and narrative of the setting. Information really is power here. The later ones hold more upgrade resources behind better performance too. You're graded on how fast you were, how efficient a hacker you were, and how undetected you were. Do well at all 3, and you get the best rewards. Some of these can be a little tough, since the hints don't always point you in the right direction, but it's usually doable to know you need to do by looking at the layout and the required clear time. EVOTINCTION has pretty interesting progression, with the upgrades you get making you noticeably more capable, even if it's not always obvious how an ability is meant to be used at first. It asks you to try out the simulations, or think and experiment on your own, to be clever and creative, like Thomas Liu would have to be in order to survive. It gets even more fun when the game starts layering mechanics from your different tools and enemies together, letting you combine them in new ways, or taking advantage of something that used to be a drawback. Here's one great example. Early, you learn about paired or connected enemies. If one goes down or malfunctions, the other one will detect that. This is bad for you, and presents a challenge when approaching linked enemies. You either have to attack them both very quickly, or bypass them completely. Later, you unlock virus uploads as a hack type, and these store an action or effect on an enemy that you can then instantly activate whenever you want. store a blind on an enemy and then trigger the effect just before you pop out to cross the hallway it's watching. Viral upload used on linked enemies is the true power of this ability. Enemies that are all connected will all be affected by a viral hack activation at the exact same time. So something that used to be a greater threat now becomes greater power for you. This kind of elegant design layering and switching up is something EVOTINCTION does well on a micro scale and macro scale. Linked enemies are dangerous, but also more vulnerable to later abilities. Levels you finish become replayable time trial simulations you can master for upgrade materials. In small ways, EVOTINCTION is always encouraging you to learn spaces and improve at moment-to-moment gameplay. This type of clever layering reveals a dev team who put thought into getting the most of the content, level designs, and enemy designs they'd created, and it's one of my favorite things to notice and point out in games, especially indies who are often tasked with finding smart ways to get maximum value out of assets and effort. Some of the best games of all time are constructed with similarly elegant, layered designs, and it's something I really love about many of my favorites. Due to the tension and unease the game constantly increases, I started thinking about survival horror games from time to time during my playthrough, how the way I'd use resources there feels similar to the way I'd use them here. It's not exactly the same, because EVOTINCTION has refill stations that let you recharge resources infinitely, but when you're far from one of these and buried deep in enemy territory, looking around for side rooms or things you can pick up and use becomes pretty important to staying alive. One thing I found cool is that revisiting previous parts of the world kept track of which enemies I'd destroyed back there. I didn't have that much reason to do so, it happens pretty linearly, but they were still deactivated when I returned, which felt really cool. I think this team could make a very good survival horror game if they ever wanted to try that. They clearly do tension reasonably well, and their item placements are quite good. Exploring spaces for resources is usually rewarding and needed. If you explore well, EVOTINCTION does give a fair bit of ammo and throwable AR chips that have different effects. A noisemaker, a visual decoy, damaging or stunning AoEs that hit enemies directly. Chips can also be infected with a virus you upload into them, acting as a trap or mine. Enemies will scan the code running on that chip into themselves, so it's a good way to get a virus onto a bunch of genies at once, even if they're not actually linked. All you have to do is make sure they all investigate at the same time, which is easy. Upload a vision virus into a thrown chip, wait for the enemies to scan it, blind the whole group with one button. It's fun, it's another way to combine or use mechanics in different layered ways, building on the previous lesson learned from viral uploads on linked enemies. The ways you can deal with foes and finish encounters mean that if you're missing some kind of resource, maybe you can finish the encounter with good use of what you do have on hand. Most tools in this game have more than one way to use them. Staying on top of your ammo counts for these items is part of the game that really matters. Testing how many you want to use, how fast, how aggressively. It's smart to be cautious with overusing them until you can get capacity upgrades and can carry more, but finding save rooms with a restock station or an upgrade terminal is always a comforting sight after a long expedition through unsafe areas. I brought it up earlier, but the spaces you move through really are quite varied, in their layouts, in their visuals, and in the kinds of challenges they'll force you to contend with. If you think most of the game is sneaking around and hacking, you're right, but there were moments when EVOTINCTION surprised me with the kind of gameplay it was having me do. I'm not sure how I feel about some of these, especially the later ones, but I genuinely do appreciate the will to provide players with variety, considering how hard it is to do. I mentioned I didn't know how to feel about a few of its late game encounters, and I think I should talk about my feelings more. I'll be speaking generally because I don't want to spoil anything. EVOTINCTION tries its best to keep things varied and surprising, always putting you through new situations, new kinds of gameplay. Some of the encounters toward the end of the game, though, are less successful than earlier ones. The game will remix or put a twist on an objective style of gameplay you're already used to, and while most of them are quite cool, some variations are more frustrating than enjoyable. Still, I find this easier to forgive in this game more than some others, because it's constantly trying to provide different experiences, which means the chance of some of them falling flatter is obviously higher as a result. Since I appreciated the commitment to variety more often than I didn't, I'm willing to endure one or two encounters that didn't work so well. I probably got 2 or 3 that I really loved because of the team's same willingness to vary up the kinds of challenges we face, so I think it was probably worth it. Another point of potential friction for me in the late game was that at this point the game was stuttering for me more than usual, but I'm hopeful this is something that'll get fixed. Most players probably won't have to experience it. One thing I didn't have time to test was exactly how much New Game Plus changes the experience, but I know for sure that it makes a few new skills unlockable, including some very overpowered ones that limit you to A ranks on levels if you use them, similar to the special weapons you unlock after finishing Resident Evil games. I'm gonna be trying out what those do when I get access to them after finishing this video, and if they're very cool, I may release another one discussing New Game Plus features in depth. EVOTINCTION is a game whose flaws you'll notice. If people are willing to make fun of its name, I'm sure they'll be willing to look down on some of its rougher parts. However, I also think the people this game is really made for will appreciate what director Gu Xingyan and the team at Spikewave Games have given us, and appreciate that it comes from people who obviously love this genre, enjoy the great works that have cast their inspiration on them, like Metal Gear Solid. It's a creation that comes from people who love what we love, and I'll always be happy when something new like that exists. Personally, if I ever get the chance to make something a player like me would love to play someday, I hope I have the courage to take that opportunity, because when I play games like Thymesia, like Erebon, like EVOTINCTION, games made by people who love something, and want to give players like themselves another one of those things to love, I smile. I wish I could sit down with Gu Xingyan or the team and talk about their inspirations, the games, movies, stories they experienced that gave them the passion to make something like this. Thomas Liu doesn't go into his mission feeling fully prepared. He has the bare minimum of what he might need, and the situation becomes uncertain and stressful as he goes through it. He's afraid. The tools he creates aren't all super polished, technically flawless weapons, but they work. They help him overcome the challenges in front of him, and come out the other side with some kind of victory. The more I see of indie developers and the more I learn about how making games works, what goes into it, the beginning, middle, and end of this process, the more that all starts to sound eerily familiar. Making something, publishing something, especially if you're a small team just doing your best to survive the process, has got to be terrifying. I'm glad Spikewave held strong through the Unease and made this game for me to play, and I look forward to the improvements and patches in the next days. In the game's final moment, something happens that hints at the chance for a sequel. Like I said, I think this team would make a great survival horror game, but whatever they decide to do, whether it's that, or another stealth game, or something else, I would love to play that game too someday. So I hope Spikewave's future is evolution, not extinction. I will be watching to see what they make next. Thank you for listening. May fog shroud you, may stars light your way, and may the night be kind.